Yes, sasa maneno ya our reputation globally as a nation and different industries and how it plays into our diplomacy, how it plays into our trade, how it plays into our self-confidence as a country. Kujivunia kuwa Mkenya. And we'll talk about it through various industries and, citing examples here and there. We'll also talk about the pride of having a national carrier. And we talked about this earlier, which was best seen when the body of the late Raila Odinga was being brought back from India. And that was just a moment of incredible national pride.
Absolutely.
It was sad and a privilege that we got to cover it live here.
Yeah.
But those conversations have to be had. We'll talk about that. Also about the fact that Kenya Airways has turned a profit for the first time in a long time. Tunaongea mambo mengi with Allan Kilavuka. He is the managing director and CEO at Kenya Airways. Good morning, Allan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
It's good to have you in studio. Before we get to anything else, Jano will give you a quote. You can say if it speaks to you, if it resonates with you, or not.
Okay.
Binyavanga Wainaina once said, "We are a people afraid of being honest with ourselves." What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that?
Authenticity.
Yep.
We're not authentic people, and it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
Where do you see it most? Where do you see that manifest a lot?
I see it. It's all around us. Whether it's in public life, among politicians, or it's in private businesses, or it's in families. It's there. People are not authentic. And the more authentic you are, the more real you become, the more you solve problems much faster.
I like that. Yeah. If you're honest with yourself, that's already half the problem solved,
Correct.
I think.
Correct. Yeah.
I'll begin with the fact that we exist. We don't exist in a bubble. Kenya is a regional hub for so many things. We're a Silicon Savannah. We're also a big investment port for a lot of things. We also have an actual physical port. JKIA is also another port that serves the region at large, not just Kenya. What are the things that make Kenya an attractive investment? One. And what are the things that sometimes also make it an unattractive investment?
Yeah. So thank you. So let me be authentic.
And honest with
So listen, I think first of all we are so blessed. The geolocation of Kenya, where we are centered. Right bang in the middle of Africa, next to an ocean, at the equator, with great people living all around us. And so all those things play well, because if you think about people who want to set up shop here, people who want to live here, it's because they want to live here because we have... I keep telling people, especially my foreign friends, that Kenya has the best weather in the world. Nairobi has the best weather in the world. And I think
Nairobi?
that is not...
Nairobi?
Nairobi has the best weather in the world.
Really?
Believe me.
Fair. You're very well traveled, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I keep complaining that it's getting colder in Nairobi, so that's why I'm just like,
we love sunshine.
We love sunshine. But go on.
So it's moderate temperature because of the equator. And then if you want to go to Africa from anywhere, Nairobi is the center. Of course, like we have the Indian Ocean right at the coast.
Yes.
Then we are very well educated, very averagely spoken people. So if you want people who are educated, if you want engineers, for example, which is a specialized field, that's a good place to come, Nairobi. So that makes us very attractive. And so those are the good things. That's what makes Nairobi and Kenya generally attractive. Some of the things that make us not as attractive is our rankings when it comes to transparency and ethics. So we rank very poorly. So we are being authentic, so we need to talk about this very openly.
Yeah.
And we also are not a very disciplined nation sometimes, and you can just peep outside the door and you see how we drive. Yeah, I mean, when we were bringing in the body of the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga, I know we were in mourning, but it ran over, and we put the airport at risk at some point because we overran the security, and it was quite something for us to get rid of. So those are some of the reasons why people may frown at not necessarily wanting to invest here. The cost of doing business is generally higher than it should be, particularly if you compare with some of the people who are competing with us. If you look at countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, even India to some point, China, it's cheaper to set up shop in those places. And if you look into Africa, places like Egypt and so on are generally cheaper because of the cost of power. Even the wage bill is generally lower than we are.
Yeah, we've talked about that as well, the cost of just doing businesses. And again, like Mariam said, we'll come into these incredible moments we've seen around, the national pride with what happened about a few weeks ago. But I want to talk about trust. Airline industry, whatever industry, it's built on trust. Talk to us about how quickly that trust can be eroded and how hard it is to build back trust in the industry, in industries.
Yeah. So I'll look at the values that we have because that actually talks to your question. So in Kenya Airways, we have 4 values, and the point of those 4 values is to build trust. The first is safety. Because what we say is, listen, our license to operate is safety, is a safe airline, and compromising safety. So that's very important. So of course, if you compromise safety, that erodes trust very quickly. When things happen, when you have an incident or accidents that are unexplained, that will obviously erode trust. The second one is customer obsession. You need to meet your customer promises, and we don't meet them all the time, so we admit that. So it's important for you to listen to your customer and abide by customer promises. The other one is accountability. Doing what said you will do, and then the last one is on integrity. Okay, doing things in the right way, and it doesn't matter the cost. You do things correctly.
You once said integrity has a value in the marketplace.
Yes. You can buy and sell integrity.
You can buy and sell integrity. Integrity scores. Eric has been harping on the fact that we need integrity scores as people, as corporates, as everybody needs an integrity score. But let me talk about our positioning that is so favorable for travel, for investment, also makes us favorable for the not so nice things, right? Whether it is trafficking of people, whether it is trafficking of drugs, and we've seen a lot of that. So Kenyans being trafficked abroad, but also things now coming into our borders that shouldn't. What does that do for our reputation globally and as an investment attraction?
Yeah, and it talks to actually what we've been saying so far. Because Jano, right?
Yes, you're a fixer.
He's a quick fixer.
Yeah, he's a fixer.
So really talk about eroding of trust. Talk about integrity, accountability. All those things play into this whole conundrum we are in with regard to being seen as a hotspot for trafficking in persons and also drugs.
Right.
So, here is where, because we are a hub of sorts that connects Africa to the world and the world to Africa, we are seen as a transit point by the not-so-good people to traffic people and to traffic also drugs. We also unfortunately in Africa, we have situations where we have very desperate people who are very vulnerable to trafficking. So they would, they'd fall into very wrong hands if, once they're quickly told there's opportunities in some place in the Far East or in the Middle East, and then they fall into this kind of situations.
Right.
And the same goes for trafficking. Now, we have measures, of course, security measures, which we work together. As Kenya Airways, we work together with other agencies, not just to train our own people, but also to train other people who are associated, but also identify and report. Now, all that training, all that making sure that we have, we seal the loopholes, can be compromised because of lack of integrity.
Yes.
Can be compromised because of lack of accountability. And we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
We have... I'm wondering where...
Yeah. Where?
Where the gap
That's what I was...
actually is.
Or where the gap is. That's true. That's a good question. Gap gap that makes that persist.
Yeah.
Along with that, I think the other thing I wanted to ask is, you've talked about what makes Kenya attractive, what isn't. You've answered Mariam's question around the pros and cons. And so now let's think of the broader implications, whether it's on tourism, investment, and then even as we think about the gaps and implications, let's also think through how we need to now begin to fix. That's why we're here today. We fix. I know it's not a fix immediately, but when these implications persist, we need to think of low-hanging fruits in terms of being able to fix it, but also long-term. So let's speak to the gaps, as she said, the broader implications of having these issues around reputation, and then the short-term and long-term fixes. Yeah.
So if you look, like I said, there's a lot of traffic that passes through Nairobi.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's vulnerabilities there, just because of the traffic, the amount of traffic that goes through Nairobi. Prevention is better than cure, they say. Preventive actions are cheaper and they're more effective than detective ones.
Right.
So we start right from there. So how do you prevent, or how do you try and prevent the situations from happening? You need to have properly trained personnel to detect suspicious characters, to detect people who are the vulnerable people. You also need to educate even the victims themselves.
Right.
Because some of the things that we've seen is that
before they become victims.
Before they become victims, so that they know that when they're attracted to certain things, they are vulnerable.
Yeah.
They are vulnerable to trafficking. And then you put in place mechanisms right at the entries, port entries, that can detect both drugs and people. Then you work collaboratively, because the gaps that exist is because either people are not properly trained to identify vulnerable situations, or the mechanism, the systems that have been put in place have leaks.
Right.
And then, of course, the big one is you have people who can be compromised. So if you address the three of them, you train people well, you make sure that the systems are able to detect. So, for example, you have scanners that are able to pick out drugs in this instance. You have people, when you're looking at documentation, for example, in Kenya Airways, we have document verification teams, and their job is to look at passports. Are they matching? Do they make sense? Have they been forged? So those systems, and then people. So this is a system. If someone is trafficking people,
right,
you have to work through the system. You have to talk to people along the line. So whether it's the airline, the operator of the airport, the security people, the immigrations people, those ones have all got to be aligned for you to be able to traffic people effectively.
True. But some would say usually the weakness of a security system is always the people.
Yes.
So then that's what
kind of capacity building is needed there?
Do you need that? Or I don't know if it's a shift in how we think, or how we hire, or how, because we could have the best scanners, the highest, the best technology as far as detecting that this is a fraudulent passport, this is not legitimate, these are drugs, the bag went through, but the person at the end of the day has to make the call on whether to act on this or not. Yeah.
So there's a lot of sensitization that we do. By the way, just for information, and I need to throw this in there, Kenya Airways is the first, and I think so far the only airline which has an anti-trafficking policy globally. In fact, the UN is using this.
Well done.
And I think we need a pat on our shoulders.
Yes, I'm giving you your flowers.
So they're using our policy to try and get other airlines also to do the same thing. And I'm talking about globally, not just in Africa. Okay, so we are best in class in that case. Now, it's important for you to have this kind of policy, because then it helps. What role does the airline play? Because the airline is the one that transports people and goods.
Right.
What role does it play? How do we detect? How do we raise a flag? Okay, because the system could be broken, but we're the last line of defense to say something's going wrong.
How long has the anti-trafficking policy been in?
We signed it last year.
Last year. Yeah. How many cases of trafficking, for example, have you detected? Are you able to give numbers?
Not at the moment, but a few.
Okay.
I don't have them on top of my head.
All right. I would have loved to see like the difference.
Yeah.
But
if it's been a year, then over time will
before and after the policy, right? To see, so that we can actually have data
comparison.
Comparison.
But to your point, I think you're so right that it's about people. It's about people. That's why I was emphasizing the point on training.
Yeah.
We work very closely with IOM to the UN IOM to help capacity building. And so when you talk about training, we're talking about just awareness of how to detect, but also your personal responsibility. That what kind of responsibility do you take in detection and identification of these kinds of things? So that's to me that's central and key. Then you hire the right people and you fire the wrong people, or you get rid of the wrong people. Is that the wrong word to use?
No, it's correct. It's correct.
It's blunt.
I'd never heard of it. Like it's catchy, you know. Hire the right people, fire
the wrong people. I know you talked. So that's one way of remaining competitive, because I think an airline being able to implement that and being the first in the world, you said?
Yes.
Oh, that's so unique. Which other ways can a national carrier like Kenya Airways remain competitive? There's a lot of other airlines making their way into our spaces. So the competition is stiff. There's still the pride of Africa. But what other ways do you sustain remaining competitive despite all of these new other carriers coming in?
And coming in competitively. And seeming to almost steal
competitively and aggressively.
Steal our lunch.
Yes, steal our lunch. Steal our flyers, I don't know. And some of the flyers being Kenyans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So listen, and so I think this is a good segue, because I'll say this. Aviation, generally speaking, is the biggest catalyst for economic development. I think that's seen enough, because it's a bit removed from the mainstream. Because what we see and hear is we see education, we see tourism, agriculture, and so on and so forth. But if you look at catalyst, because you talk about import, export, tourists, employment, capacity building, all those things woven into one. And these studies have shown that if you want a quick and fast economic development, aviation. And there are many cases that have demonstrated this. If you look at the Middle East, for example, UAE, Qatar, or Singapore, this people talk about Singapore. We want to be like Singapore.
Yeah.
Well, Singapore has a very successful aviation industry for a good reason.
True.
Yeah. So aviation is a very big catalyst for economic development. Now, what we talk about having a competitive advantage. For us to have a good competitive advantage, we have to invest in aviation. It cannot just grow. Like a wild flower. You have to nurture it and you have to invest in it. Those countries that I have named have invested heavily in aviation.
Right.
And I'm talking about heavy investment. Let me give you a practical example. So during COVID, one of the things that was one of the sectors which was at high risk was aviation. Those countries that I have mentioned invested billions of dollars in making sure that they protect aviation. And if you go a little bit back, you'll see, remember the financial crisis in the US. The US did exactly the same thing, made sure that they protect aviation. And in some of those countries, like in the US, aviation is it's in private sector, completely private sector. But yet government steps in and says, no, we have to protect this industry, because they know the kind of role it plays in national development. In fact, social and economic development, both together. So what we have done in Africa generally, we have not invested enough in aviation. And you know why? You could understand why, because we have bread and butter issues.
We do.
Right? So should we invest in a school, or should we prop up an airline? And of course, because like I said, we have bread and butter issues, we invest in a school or in a hospital or in roads and so on and so forth. But I would want to argue that if you invest effectively in an airline, then it helps you to address the other issues as well. But you see, it's kind of it's a long game. You have to look at it from a long game perspective. How do you invest in aviation so that it supports you to address all the other issues? It does, because it will bring in more tourists, it will export more goods, it will employ more people, it will upskill your people, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I know we have feedback that you want to come back to on YouTube just now. Mariam will take us through some feedback. But just based on that point, how are you, if at all, making a case for that now, whether it's with policymakers, whether it's with government? To your point, the bread and butter issues, but perhaps in tandem, I don't know, in a perfect world, could go hand in hand with propping aviation. How do you intend to make a case for it? How are you making a case in a way that can be listened to?
You see, Jano, let me tell you, because I understand where we are at as a country, and actually, you know, I'm the chairman of the Africa Airline Association, so I'm talking about Africa here. Now, Africa is the least connected continent in the world. We estimate about 16% connectivity. Take the next least connected is Asia, which is at, I think, 54%. Then Europe about 60 whatever percent, and so on and so forth. So you can see the gap. Now, we have just implemented something called the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. It is never going to work with a 16% connectivity, for example. We talk about tourists. Today, Kenya, we have about 2 million tourists that come into this country. We are targeting 5 million tourists. Do you know how many people visit Paris? Just Paris, not France. Paris as tourists.
No.
30 million. And think about any other. Singapore, for example, which is completely far off. Thailand, 38 million people, and so on. So how do we move from 2 million to 30 million? Okay, the way you move from that kind of thing is to make sure that even Africans are visiting Kenya as tourists.
Yes.
And the only way to do it is to connect Africa to Africa and Africa to the world. How can people move from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, to the coast in Diani? I heard you talk about water issues in Diani. How do people move from Lagos to Diani?
It was Watamu, but yes.
Oh, it was Watamu.
The same, you know.
Yeah. So, see, how do they move? They cannot drive from Lagos. Well, they can, but they'll spend 2 weeks driving from Lagos. We don't have a train system. So the easiest and quickest way to do it is to fly into Nairobi, or maybe even to Mombasa directly, or maybe Diani directly. And we know for sure that Nigerians are visiting Dubai every day as tourists. And they can visit Diani as well.
That interconnectivity we'll talk about, because you're right, the cost of inter-African travel is just ridiculous. But let's answer some questions that are on YouTube. Quite a few, actually, and I hope I'll remember mine as well. Let me begin with Bakari Sagda. Given JKIA's capacity constraints, what are the feasible sites for the new airport proposed by President Ruto? This is asking you as a player in the aviation sector. Ask him if KAA can build JKIA in phases with its income of 3 billion. Uganda has built a terminal without a PPP and is continuing in phases. Government lies we need 200 billion, not mentioning that we can do it in phases. So these are questions around JKIA's capacity, our capacity constraints, and of course, if it's possible to build a new airport without PPPs. Then we'll go into some more questions. I also want to get into the profitability, but let's begin with those two, and then we'll talk about the pricing as well. There's a question on why Kenya Airways pricing is less competitive than, for example, Ethiopian Airlines on many international routes.
I'll answer those. So let me start with JKIA, and there are so many angles to look at this issue. Because I hear the question about, what's the best funding model? Okay.
Yes. What alternative sites?
What are the alternative sites? Can we do internal funding of building the airport and so on and so forth? These are my views. Okay. So first of all, there are alternative sites.
Right.
I know that people have talked about Machakos or Konza, but if you do that, then you need to make sure that it connects, first of all, with JKIA and also to Nairobi, either by high-speed train or expressways or whatever. It has to be connected, otherwise it will not work. Because people who land in, let's say, Machakos, if they land in Machakos or in Konza, as people have said, they'd have to connect into Nairobi because the commercial hub is here. And if you decide to have JKIA as the, say, domestic hub, so convert, make that domestic and regional, and then make another international airport. Many countries have done that. We know that Ethiopia are doing it at the moment. They're building a huge airport, a bit far off from Bole.
From Bole,
which has, I think they're estimating to have about 100 million visits per year or transit passengers in that new airport. So we could do that. We could have an alternative site near Nairobi.
Right. As long as there's connectivity.
There has to be connectivity. If there's no connectivity, then let's not even try it.
This sounds expensive. How do we fund it?
No, first, let me give you another alternative.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The other alternative is, JKA also has quite a lot of land. I think about 1,000 acres or so. So you could have another terminal inside the current JKA. Okay? So that's an alternative as well. Kajiado is another alternative. There are several. Okay. Just need to look at the flight paths and make sure that there is no contradiction. And then how do you fund it? Okay. Again, there are many alternatives. PPPs is one, which I hear people contesting. You can build it in phases. That is true. I don't think that the 200 billion is to do it in one shot. I think 200 billion is over a period of time in phases. You can use the balance sheet, Kenya K balance sheet. Yeah, you can use, but you have to securitize it. Yeah.
Which is something we're getting very comfortable with of late. What do you think of what was proposed, the Adani deal? Did that look like a good deal as far as expanding JKIA?
Yes, it was a alternative. I think what the players in the industry were uncomfortable with is whether it was going to increase the cost to the operators, and I think that's a big deal. So because if you depending on how you fund JKIA, it will have an implication on operators.
Yeah.
It will increase the cost to the operator.
Yeah.
So if you can fund expansion without necessarily passing the cost to the operator and to the travelers by extension, then we're okay.
Yeah.
And then there has to be consultation. KQ is the biggest operator, of course, in JKIA. We are the ones who understand the flows, the traffic flows best, how we want to connect our passengers, first of all, to the rest of our network. Secondly, how they can get out of the airport as quickly as possible and as comfortably as possible. So for us, we are more concerned about our customers, our passengers, than many other things, okay? So right now, of course, the way the airport is structured, it doesn't help us. So for example, if someone is landing from JFK and going to Diani, for instance, it's a very uncomfortable. If it's raining, for example, it's even worse. So whatever we do, and I know KA have a master plan, which we are currently discussing. That master plan has to address how the customers will be catered for in the most comfortable way. And the cost of operating in JKA will not increase significantly with whatever model we use.
I wanted to ask you, people are talking about PPPs and being against it. What's your honest view on PPPs, and especially with regards to the expansions you're talking about? And
to be honest, I have no problem with PPPs at all. It's just a funding model.
Why do you think people have an issue with it?
Because I think they smell something that's untoward, something fishy. Now, if it's done transparently, there's absolutely nothing wrong with PPP, in my opinion. It's just a funding model. I mean, we're not selling anything. The land remains here, the airport will remain here. So there's, in my opinion, absolutely nothing wrong with doing a PPP. My only thing is, whatever, you see, an airport needs an airline. In fact, a successful airport needs an anchor airline. So again, those countries I mentioned, UAE, Qatar, Singapore, South Korea, and so on and so forth,
That's
they have
what
anchor
they have.
airlines.
And
those anchor airlines have to be successful. If you build an airport without a proper anchor airline, it will be a monument. A fantastic, nice-looking monument.
It will be a monument.
So it's important for the airport to be developed in tandem with the airline. And actually the opposite is the same. The airline without a proper airport is very dysfunctional. So they're like twins.
They're intertwined.
They're intertwined.
Mariam wants to come. Wait, before I
have a lot.
You have a lot of questions. Very quickly, because we do want to talk about like Mariam introduced this segment, just what we saw the other day, and just talk about that element of what that moment went. But cancellations. sir. Very briefly, I know I was caught up in one not too long ago. When I was the one consoling the folks there saying, Aki Poleni, I was the one standing for the staff because I'm like, it's got nothing to do with them.
They're not the ones who've cancelled.
They're not the ones who've cancelled. What causes, people are probably interested, what causes these cancellations?
So there are several things. Okay, some are within our control, or not really within our control. Some are internal and internal issues. Some are external. So, for example, let me give you it's external. I'll give you one examples. External would be weather, would be strikes, would be airport inability, and so on and so forth. So, for example, when the day we brought in the Right Honourable Prime Minister's body, for example, because of the breach in security, the airport was closed for a while. So we cancelled quite a few.
Fair enough.
Okay. Then weather and so on. Some internal are technical issues. Okay. Now, currently we have, and we've been transparent about this, currently we have some of our aircraft, about 20% of our capacity is grounded because of lack of engines and spare parts. Actually, it's happened for the rest of almost from January all the way up to September. We have had a significant problem with about 20% of our capacity. And for us, 20% is a huge capacity because we are a small airline compared to those big airlines. So if you have 20% down and you have to juggle in your network, even if we call it jigging the network,
right?
Sometimes it doesn't work because then you have a low capacity. One aircraft goes down, it affects the entire network. So our current focus right now is to bring back that 20% capacity, because if we bring it back, then it will be good.
That's helpful perspective. Mariam, really burning questions.
No, I had so many. I'm even going to try and keep track. Let me begin with...
I didn't answer some of the questions you answered, but okay.
Yes, actually, I was going to say, there was the question of why the pricing is less competitive. Why Kenya Airways pricing is less competitive than other regional carriers. Ethiopian Airlines comes to mind.
Yeah. Now, let me try and simplify this talk, because I know it's very well, it's spoken a lot. So in aviation, we use something called dynamic pricing. Now, if I take Ethiopian as an example, Ethiopia's hub is in Addis. Our hub is here in Nairobi.
Yes.
Okay? If you have what we call a non-stop flight, so if you're flying from Nairobi to London, directly, that is a product on its own. That's, let's say, a sweet melon. If you're flying from here to Addis to London,
right,
that is, let's say, a bitter lemon. Okay, because you have to stop over in
Addis.
in Addis,
3 hours,
3 hours, and so on, and then go on to London. Okay, so those are two different products.
Yes,
they cannot be priced the same.
True.
Actually, the opposite is also correct. So if you are an Ethiopian and you're flying to London through Nairobi, that is also a bitter lemon, and it will be cheaper than flying directly from Ethiopia to London. And this is the world over. Okay, the same goes for many other examples. But if you compare our pricing, Kenya Airways pricing to British Airways pricing on that direct flight, even now you can Google.
Yeah.
You will tell me who's cheaper.
Okay.
So, and the same goes for flying from here to Dubai. Compare our pricing and
Emirates
and Emirates pricing, and you Google and tell me who's cheaper, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's one aspect. But there are many other aspects. When Kenyans generally, we book our flights last minute. Okay, that is always more expensive. And I'll give you an example. So our direct flight from here to New York, if you look at most of the travelers, they are mainly Europeans and Americans, because they typically book way in advance, and so they get the best prices. Now, if you go last minute, it will always be more expensive because of the way we do our inventory on seats. Okay, and again, it's not a Kenya Airways thing. It's an aviation thing. Now, are there opportunities for us to reduce the price? Of course, there are.
Yeah.
In Africa, generally speaking, African operations are typically about 30% more expensive than anywhere else in the world because of our infrastructure problems, inefficiencies, cost of issues, taxes, penalties, and so on and so forth. So there's opportunities for us. Remember when I spoke about African aviation, we need to mainstream aviation right from the AU. Governments need to mainstream aviation. And if you look at countries that have mainstreamed aviation, you mentioned a few of them, you'll see that the price of operation is typically lower than those of countries which have not.
Right. I'm actually just looking at, fair comparisons. So a quick KQ versus British Airways. Return Nairobi to London right now, about 99,755. Looking at the same return for British Airways is 108,000. So slightly cheaper on KQ side. Let me get into some good news that came out of KQ, which is this year posted an after-tax profit.
Last year,
of about 5.5 billion, if I'm not wrong, 5.3 or 5.5. I'll have a look at it. Yes, but it was the first time in a long time that we've seen KQ post an after-tax profit. So first, hongera, well done. It's good news. I'll be the devil and ask the question.
No, don't be the devil.
I have to.
Just be Mariam.
Okay, I can be Mariam. Let me be Mariam and ask how much of that was because of like core operations, the flights, etc., versus current foreign exchange, fluctuations. The shilling held stable at 100. Well, we saw a lot. We went from 170 to 129,
which we've been questioning.
Which we've been questioning a lot. So, how much of this after-tax profit is core operations? How much of it is just currency fluctuations?
Yes. Okay. So, first of all, thank you. First, we have to celebrate that. That's an achievement. That is 2024. In 2023, we made a big loss. You know why? Currency. Okay. So nobody at that time, when I was trying to explain that we had a currency problem in 2023,
nobody wanted to hear that.
They said,
it's an excuse. Why?
It's an excuse.
Okay,
so in 2024, when we made profit, and yes, indeed, the currency supported, people say, no, it's currency. So, what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
We must apply it equally.
You must apply it equally. So yes, indeed, it's true. The currency thing played in our favor in 2024. That's true. However, the main reason why we were profitable is because of, in 2024, not only was this the first time in 11 years for us to turn profitable, in 2024, it was the highest number of passengers we had ever carried in the history of Kenya Airways at 5.2 million passengers. It was the highest turnover of KQ since inception of 182 billion Kenya shillings. It was highest. We were breaking records last year. Okay, so operationally we did extremely well. And if you want to see that we were doing well, you look at the operating profit. Forget about the profit after tax.
After tax,
because the element that you've introduced of currencies comes after operating profit. So we made an operating profit. We also made an after tax profit. So yes, it did play. But also operationally, we did well.
You did well.
Now, what has happened this year?
I was about to ask, because how are we doing this year?
This year we're not doing well, because remember what I introduced earlier is the fact that we have 20% of our capacity down. In aviation, we have something called fixed costs. Whether you fly or not, you'll still incur some cost. By the way, I don't know whether you know that if you park an aircraft, you still maintain it.
Yes. But you also pay for the space. You pay, is it KA or JKIA for the space? KA. And then you still maintain it.
You still maintain it. It's called storage maintenance. So you're not generating any income, but you're paying storage maintenance. You're paying what we call leases if you have leased the aircraft. You're paying staff who are there, and so on and so forth. So the idea is, aircrafts are never supposed to be on the ground. They're always supposed to be in the air to generate income. So we do have the passengers, we have the cargo, but we don't have capacity. The other problem that we have at the moment, even last year, it was never going to be sustainable if you have 34 aircraft. So, in aviation we say big is beautiful. Okay? I know nowadays they tell us that we need to be trim and so on. But in aviation, big.
You're talking about the
planes should be big.
Planes, Okay, I was like, please, let's be clear. Planes being big is beautiful. Go ahead.
So big is beautiful. So sustainably, we know that aviation rule of thumb is an airline should be at least 50 aircraft and above.
We're at 34.
We are 34.
Okay.
So for us to be sustainable, what we're now currently working on is how do we grow? How do we expand? So we need funding. You said the airport needs 200 billion. We probably need the same. 200 billion for us to expand, to move from 34 to at least 50.
We'll get into the how to expand and where this money is coming from again. But I know over the years there's been some faux pas made as far as aircraft, whether it's space in terminals abroad. What's the fix for those? First of all, what happened? I'm trying to remember exactly where KQ gave up very valuable real estate.
I think you're talking about the London slots.
Yes, I think it was London.
Yeah.
So what's the fix for that? Because I think that would have helped the books balance out a little bit.
Yeah. So one thing I have to caution people, because aviation is a very complex business. In fact, I always argue, and I didn't know this before I joined aviation, I always argue that I think it is the most complex sector definitely in Kenya, and I would even argue one of the most complex in the world. Because everything that is complicated is in aviation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is no silver bullet. Because when I meet people and I discuss with people, and people mean well, because Kenyans love Kenya Airways, despite all the things that they say. I know they love Kenya Airways. So they want to offer solutions. So, for example, like now you're saying the solution is this slot in London. That would have solved problems. That's just one very small
cog in the wheel.
Right? There are many, many complex things. I've just mentioned capacity, for example.
Yeah.
There's even policy issues. You see, when you're inundated like we are in Kenya with all this capacity from foreign carriers, and you're a small carrier, it's very difficult to compete. We know that our competitors around us have ring-fenced their airline and said, we are going to protect this airline until it gets to a scale that it can be able to effectively compete with all this competition.
Right.
But we are a liberalized economy, so we have to compete with this
every other airline.
Every other airline.
We're running out of time, and I really would love to get into the how we finance this expansion, but I don't want to leave without having a discussion around the national carrier outside money, outside profits. And like we said earlier, it was best seen when the body of the late Raila Odinga was coming back home. Give us what that was like operationally on your end, and the importance of having a national carrier outside money.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is the best question you've asked me.
I know the money was stressful.
He suddenly relaxed. He's like, okay, let me get into it.
Yeah, let's talk.
So, you know, the late Right Honorable Raila Odinga is the only, or maybe one of the few politicians I've heard openly say that Kenya Airways is not there to make money. He said it, I think, last year when they had a retreat for the CSS. And he said, listen, Kenya Airways has a bigger mandate. And what is the mandate? It's bringing tourists, support in export of goods, play the ambassadorial role, humanitarian role, and so on and so forth. And that was best displayed, like you said, when we were repatriating the body, or his body. You know, he said it himself, and then it's ironic that we did it for him. So that operation was complex. And I know the face of it was, of course, our captain,
Savia Maria.
Savia Maria, a wonderful lady. But there was quite a number of people behind. Her first officer, for example, the crew there, the people on ground. I'll tell you, flight control. I did not, me and a few people could not sleep that night because not only were we tracking, we were making sure that when it lands, it has the right support in Mumbai.
Right.
And the people who had gone there to repatriate the body were getting the support they needed from our team and the teams in Mumbai. And also when it was landing back, was it on track? Were there any deviations and so on? What time was it going to land? And I had to keep the authorities updated.
Right.
Actually, right to the president himself, updated on how the flight was doing. And it was the honor of our lives to do that. One of us, Captain Joroge, in fact, the director of flight operations, is the one who suggested, why don't we change the name from KQ
23?
to 243 to RAO 001. And when we asked the authorities, they were kind enough to give it to us.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you whose idea that was, because they deserve a heavy pat on the back.
Yeah. So we generally speaking, we do that for retiring captains when they're flying. So we change the code when they're flying in on their last flight.
Okay.
And this was his last flight.
His last flight.
So we had to do that. But what has to be remembered is that what we did for this national duty, we do it many, many times over. I don't know whether you know that we are the ones who, when the late President Kibaki had an accident, we're the ones who took him to London, for his medical attention. When the late Wamalo Kijana, the vice president, then died in London, we're the ones who repatriated the body. When our people were stuck in Bangui, in Central African Republic, we're the ones who repatriated, repatriated the people. Same with Juba, when there was fighting, Kenya Airways. In fact, at some point, we even had to take non-Kenyans because they didn't have a national carrier.
Right.
When people were stuck, we went to Ethiopia, the border in Ethiopia, and repatriated people who were stuck in South Sudan, and so on and so. So this story is replicated many times over. During COVID, when Kenyans were stuck in Mumbai, we did the same thing. So the point I'm making is, we are more than a national carrier. We are more than profit. Yes, indeed, we need to be efficient. We need to be on time. We need to check on our pricing. We need to do all these things. But the moment Kenya does not have a national carrier is the moment we will know that how important we are.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, your insights. I think just understanding the aviation industry, the importance, I think your insights have been incredibly insightful. So we've had Allan Kilavuka, Managing Director and CEO, Kenya Airways. And thank you to all our guests today. Thank you, Mariam. Thank you to my co-host. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., Fixing the Nation, one conversation at a time. Up next, Your World on NTV and Vibe Shift on Nation FM. We'll see you tomorrow.